Hello gamers, Powered Heal here, and today we are coming at you with the last Epoch video. This is going to be for crafting, and specifically it's kind of going to be crafting tips and tricks. So this isn't going to be like teach you how to craft if you have no knowledge on the game. I'll do another one of those videos, but this is kind of going to be if you're a little bit familiar with the system but you're not like super in tune with it. You know, maybe I can elucidate some things for you and bring some things to your attention that'll help you for crafting your own items. Right now, we're going to do this with crafting items for my build. And my build is a Ballista Falconer, right? So we need a lot of minion damage. And basically what that means is that we really want the turquoise rings. And because of that, I basically pick up a bunch of turquoise rings with the hope of potentially changing them into something usable, because, you know, we're just really limited on the base type, right? We really don't want to use something else that's just giving up too much damage, which means we have to kind of, on solo self-found, we have to take our shot with every ring we can get, basically. So you're going to be seeing that here. And I'm going to be walking you through kind of like what we do on each ring, and we'll just kind of take it from there, right? So, we'll start, I guess, like, just in order. We'll go to the bench here, right? And we'll look at this, and we see that it has terrible crit multi, right? And very low forging potential. And the stats don't make sense. So this is just going to be an instant throw out. It's not even worth using resources on this ring, right? Because there's basically no chance that it is going to be good. Now this one's a little bit more interesting. I am going to hit this one to try and change the implicit first, because if the implicit is bad on any of these, it's just not worth using, especially like this bad, right? There's different degrees to how bad the implicit can be, but if we look, you know, we're losing out on basically 24% damage, and we're losing out on like 24% multi, right? Around there, right? 25% multi. So we're going to hit this with a Glyph of Hope, right? Because there's no other reason to do another glyph. And then we're going to do the implicit reroll, and we're just going to see. And we lose 22 forging potential immediately. So this, I'm just going to clear this because I actually do use some of these shards. So we're just going to shatter it and be done with it, right? This, very low forging potential, nothing that we need on it, so we toss it out. This, very low forging potential and nothing that we really need on it, so we toss it out. This, very low forging potential, wrong mods, toss it out. Now we got a very interesting ring. So this has like almost no forging potential, but it has kind of like good mods, I would say. Like the mana regeneration is not necessarily something that we are super excited about. We'd probably rather have minion damage, but the damage on the ring itself and the critical strike multiplier is so good that we're willing to kind of like invest a little bit into it. And now it only has 2 forging potential, so what we really need is some RNG here on the Glyphs of Hope, and we'll just see if we can get it. Okay, and we basically instantly brick it. I'm going to keep this one just because it's not like awful, but I don't think I'll really be using it. So this ring right here, 26 minion damage, 34 crit strike. Now the most important role of the implicits tends to be the crit strike, right? Because you know, missing a little bit of damage here and there is one thing, but crit multiplier is really, really strong, especially because this build is going to have 100% crit. So very important, and we really want to lock that in. Now, you might look at this off the start and be like, oh, this is doomed, right? Because we have 7 strength and it's T5, so how are we going to do anything? But there's a new way to change the attribute, right? So you can change the attribute from strength to dex, which means that we only have to hit another useful mod in the prefix section here, which means that we can try and do that. And I think we're going to try and do that first, because really this is what's going to determine the path that we're going to go with the ring. So like we could do something like we could Glyph of Discovery, another mod on here. We could chaos this to try and change it to something that we'd prefer. But the reality is that we have to know if this hits first, because if it doesn't hit, then the only other thing we can do to salvage this is to annul it, or rather use a rune removal to try and remove whatever bad mod we get here is, right? And if we just keep adding more stuff to the ring before we do that, then, it's just kind of like wasted if the ring is bricked, and then it also makes our odds of hitting the rune removal harder. So we're just going to chaos this, see what we get. Healing effectiveness. So if we really want to continue with this, what we're going to do is we're going to remove rune of removal, and if we hit this or the dodge, it's fine. And we hit the 5 strength. So this ring is basically brick now. No big deal. Just toss it out. Next ring. Again, this has some potential in the sense that this can be changed. So we're just going to hit this with a chaos because we have no use for throwing attack speed, and see what happens. And it's damage over time. Okay. So I'm going to keep this only because I don't know if this maybe would correspond to a minion build I want to use later, but most likely not. And we're going to move on to the next ring. So this ring has a lot of forging potential, right? It has decent implicit. And I think the way to go about this one is try and rune removal, we have to get like some of these prefixes off. So we're going to rune removal. We got the one that we kind of wanted off. Now this is an interesting scenario that we have, because you could add dex, right? But the reason why, because remember, we're going for dex minion damage here. Now, why we won't want to add the dex right away, right? Because we're probably going to want to chaos this to see if we can get it to something useful. And if we chaos first, okay, then we have a higher odds of hitting dex or minion damage. But if we put dex on, we basically block the outcome of this becoming dex, which means that the only useful outcome we'd have is minion damage, right? Which then means that because the only useful outcome is minion damage, that means that it's really hard to hit, right? Where now we have kind of like 2 useful outcomes, and then if you count the fact that we might get a different stat than dex that we can then change to dex later, we have 3 useful outcomes. And then we can just simply craft whatever we don't get on this slot. So we're going to hit this with a chaos, right? And just see what happens. Okay. So we're going to hit it again because we need to hit and become something good. Intelligence. Okay. So this is workable, right? And what that means is we can just put minion damage on this, right? And we basically start crafting. And it's going to be a little bit difficult because we have to get a bunch of tiers on this item, but we'll just, add it on and try. Okay, so we lost a lot of forging potential. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work on some of these other affixes where we have a lot of shards for them first, right? And just see kind of like what the forging potential is. Now we're going 1 by 1 here, only because it just makes it easier. Like we have a better chance each time because we're losing less and less forging potential, so that's fine. Something like this. I'm not looking to invest like a ton in this, right? Because realistically, it's a lot. We need to... Okay, yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, we're not ever going to use that thing on here, so we're just going to shatter it. Like, it's not worth it to change the intelligence over on a ring like this that's so mediocre, so we just shatter it and move on. This ring is just really bad, right? But I'm actually going to shatter it just because it has minion damage on it. Okay. This ring is interesting. This ring really needs a couple of things. It needs an annul, first of all. And I feel like it's always worth kind of just annulling something like this because it has a high forging potential. That's why we have any care at all about this ring. And if we hit this for free, Like, if we get a Glyph of Hope on it, it's a great start, right? If we actually get what we need. Okay, that's not terrible. We're going to hit it one more time. We need the Endurance gone. Okay. And, yeah, it's just going to be tough at this point. I think we're just going to move off of this because we also have to fix the implicit on it. So it's just going to be too much to do for one item, right? Okay. So this ring is interesting because it has 9 forging potential, but it's got really good base stats, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at a couple of things because we only have 9 forging potential to play with, right? So you have to be smart with this. So we're going to hit Control and Alt over this. And we're going to see that we're maxed out on, or we're pretty close to max on minion damage for that tier. And we're the lowest possible on mana regeneration. What this means is we have basically the most to gain from going mana regen here. Because if we increase the minion damage by 1 tier, it's most likely, you know, not going to get us too much value in a sense, because we're already at the top of the prior tier. And the new tier starts like right after the old tier. So that's a little trick you can do if you're at like the top of a tier with some stat, right? Maybe you want to upgrade a different stat first. So we are going to do that in this case with mana regeneration. Actually, you know what? The logic there is sound, but I think I'm going to call an audible and change my thought process here because I think realistically we just don't need more than that amount of mana regeneration. So, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a usable ring, right? We'll keep it in there, but it's unfortunate. It just didn't have a lot of forging potential. Put this in here. Okay, so this is another interesting case where what we're going to have to do here is remove the cold damage. So we basically just have to remove all this and hope that we hit. And basically to like hit anything else is like pretty catastrophic, but we'll see. Okay, we only lost 1 forging potential. And we got rid of poison, which is pretty good for me personally because poison is one of the easiest resistances to cover on this build. There's a lot of different ways I can cover poison, so wasn't really thrilled having that on there anyway. So we're going to hit it again and hope that the attunement will be fine, but we really want the cold damage. Okay. I'm going to hit it again, and this is just going to be a 50-50 at this point. Okay. And now we're kind of like, I think, too far gone because we only have cold damage left. I'm just going to shatter this for the cold shards. It would just take too much to like reinvest in that and everything like that. Okay, so this is very interesting. I think actually this ring we're going to keep like this because it's going to be very difficult to do any shenanigans like we were just doing with the removals and everything like that because we only have 9 forging potential here. Now, throwing attack speed and dex do synergize with each other, and health is always good, generally speaking. So this is probably something... Actually, I'll show you what you do in an item like this, right? Because you're working with such low forging potential, you rune a discovery, another affix on, you hope that it's something like usable, like a resistance. Unfortunately, that's kind of bad. I probably like wouldn't use that, really. So I'm just going to chaos it, right, and just see what happens. Okay. I feel like that's not really good for rogue, really. Actually, it's critical strike avoidance, right, in dodge. Okay. We might keep that. So we'll put that to the side, and we'll just move on to another ring. Okay, this is kind of insane, but again, it's just like... You know, we need removals to hit, so we need to hit this poison damage off. Pretty much non-negotiable. And we get it with a Glyph of Hope. This is why it's worth it. Sometimes, especially early on, when, you know, you don't have many options for stuff like that to do crafting like this. Like, obviously, once you have, like, really good rings and, you know, you already have exalted mods on them, you don't really have to care as much. But until then, doing stuff like this is pretty fantastic. So... again, we're doing the same methodology before where we don't want to add any prefix here because then it takes away one of the possibilities we can roll here. So minion damage, perfect, right? So then we can just put dex right here. Okay. So we put dex on. Okay. So this is looking like one of those rings where we might have to discovery this last suffix here because we're just running low on forging potential. So we're gonna put this on. Okay. I think we're definitely gonna have to discovery it. So okay, that's workable. That's absolutely workable. And we're gonna buff this up a little bit. Okay, I like that, honestly. We're gonna buff this a little bit. It's kind of tough, but yeah, well, what we're doing here is like, the reason why we're hitting the low stats, right, is the more hits you get on the item, the better, because you can get things like critical successes and stuff. So you have to kind of balance that out with what do you actually care about most being on the item. But typically I like to get things to at least tier 3 because they tend to, that's where they go. It goes from 1 to 12 to 1 to 18, right? See, we got a critical success there. Because we're getting like more hits now, right? Now, since everything's tier 3, we can just kind of go and pump dex, right? I think dex is low on this range anyway. Yeah, so we're going to pump dex here. Okay, that's playable. Now we're going to go back to this, right? Because we have a chance to not max it out here, right? Or to not use up all our forging potential. Because we're only 1 over potentially. We have 17 remaining. And it actually took all 17. That's just very unlucky. But it's still kind of like a semi-usable ring, right? So not bad. Minion damage. This is actually a great one. But the implicit's bad. Okay, so what we're going to have to do here is we just have to change the implicit right away and just hope that we get lucky. That's insane. Okay, so we actually got like a cracked implicit on that. Like, absolutely insane implicit. So we're going to come over here and now we're going to add dexterity onto this. And then we're probably just going to chaos this later on. We can't do a rune of discovery on this side, right? Because we need specific prefixes in this case. The suffixes tend to be more flexible, but the prefixes tend to be stuff that you're like specifically targeting, and I'm definitely doing that in this case, right? So we have no choice but to manually add dex. And that hurts, honestly, losing 10 forging potential right there, but not much we can do. There we go. Nice. We like that. Like to see that. We're going to hit this again. Glyph of Hope. Nice. Nice. We don't use block at all, so we're in a little bit of a tricky position. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this one more time on dex. And then we are going to chaos this side. Well, actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to chaos this side first, because if we hit something else bad, I want to be able to chaos it again, if that makes sense. Yeah, see, we hit something kind of we don't care about at all. And that means that we want to chaos it again. It's going to be tough. We have to make sure that we don't want to... It's rough, but we have over a 50% shot here, right? So hopefully we don't brick it. And it went back to... Okay, so, I mean, we tried, and it's still a decent ring, potentially, in some contexts. I could see if you were doing, like, sword and board, this would be good. But not really what we wanted. Since we are using bows. Okay, so this one... kind of the same problem, right? Where we need to fix the implicits first. So we're going to do that. We're going to use the rune of shaping. It's kind of tough. I think on this one, I'm going to actually just settle. I'm going to toss some decks in here. Yeah, it's going to be tough to even... Yeah, okay, it's already basically bricked. I feel like this isn't good enough to use, so I'm just going to shatter it. That was just a tough position we were in with that ring. Not a lot going on with it, really. This one's going to be tough, because this one we can't afford to really do... Yeah, this one's just going to get actually... Well, we're not even going to shatter it, because it doesn't have anything good we want on it, and the forwarding potential is too low. This one, same thing. Forwarding potential is too low, and we don't have any good, like, stats on it, right? So we're just going to toss this one out. This one's pretty decent, right? So what we're going to do here, it's always tough because I think what we want to do is we want to actually, like, you're going to think to chaos one of these, but realistically, we want a removal because we have a good odds right now of hitting one of these two. And if we do, then we can just use the chaos on the other one, right? So, okay. Now we're in a really tricky spot. We basically have to chaos this into something useful, and even then it's going to be really difficult. Okay, no big deal. I'm going to actually destroy this because I want the health. Health shards, rather. Okay, so this, you know, we have to get rid of necrotic. There's not much else to say, right? So we are going to removal and hope. Okay, that was kind of bad. I'll hit it again just for, like, well, yeah, it's not really worth it at this point because we lost our tier 7. I mean, I have plenty of these, so I'll just hit it again. Okay, I'm gonna put some decks on there just to see what it looks like. Okay, I'm gonna hit a hit one at Rune Discovery. Oh, but I can't do that yet because it's gonna... Okay, we're gonna do minion damage. Okay. And do Discovery. So we can just add something here because we don't have much forwarding potential left. Okay. That's, like, usable, right? We'll upgrade this. I'll actually upgrade this first. Okay. Okay. See, you can get really lucky with these. So you can actually push items sometimes, like, way further than you thought you'd be able to. I think we're just going to go Dex here. And then it's like, I think we go minion damage and then go Dex. Okay. Now we just, yeah, we just send, well, what we're going to do actually is we're going to look. Okay, we're at the low end of minion damage, so we're actually going to send minion damage here because we're at the high end of Dex, right? And we used the last of our 14 potential, but that's okay. It's actually a decent ring. It's definitely usable. Not that bad. So, putting this one up here, this is going to be tough because we don't have much forwarding potential, but we're going to start with the lowest mod, right, to just help us along and hope we get critical successes and Cliff of Hope uses. So, okay, good start. We're going to hit it again because this is the lowest stat, the one that we need, right? Okay, we can take that, and then we're in the same spot we were before, right, where we have the low minion damage and the high dexterity, so we're going to go minion damage here and hope that we proc something. And we didn't, but we also got very low minion damage, but, you know, it's usable. So we're not really getting that lucky, but we are kind of like doing things the right way. Sometimes it just doesn't pan out, you know. This is going to be really difficult because we have to remove 2 things from the prefix slot. we can just mess around and see. Okay. Okay. So we actually got both of them, which is kind of insane. People are going to be like, you're using your RNG, but that's obviously not how it works. Another Glyph of Hope. We needed that before. Okay. So this is going to have to get changed for it to even be usable. Yeah, it's just going to be so hard. Okay, Void Res. We're going to send the Dex on this. We're going to send it one more time. Okay. See, it's crazy, right? Like, this ring seemed so dead, like, minutes ago. And now, look, it's like, it's come from the grave, basically. Right? We're gonna hit this, and then we're... Okay. Then we're gonna hit Dex. Okay, and we even... So, you can make, like, semi-usable items with the system. If you have a decent amount of currency. Now, this is just, like, absolutely dead to rights, in my opinion. We just need way too much on that, so we're not going to bother. This has no forging potential, so I don't even know why it's in here. This is... So this one, the forging potential is so low that we need, like, basically just insane Glyph of Chaos RNG to pull us through. So I'm just chaosing it from the start. Well, we'll hit this just to see. Okay, yeah, nothing good. Just going to destroy it. That one was going to be really difficult. This is something where, yeah, this one's going to be really hard. I don't even think we're going to attempt this because it's going to just require so much. We have to change the implicit. None of the stats are good. This is a lot easier, right? So we're going to start with the Void. Again, we're going to try and proc some stuff. Okay, we get 2. Nice. We're going to use this here. Okay. Oh, I didn't even realize that the implicit is so bad. Yeah, well, that was just destined to die, right? So there's that. This is an interesting one because basically what's going on here is we need to remove the health regeneration. So we are going to... This is like a double... Yeah, it's like a double... double exalted. So we're going to do a removal with a Glyph of Hope and a hope that we hit the health regeneration. Okay, that's... it took too much 40 potential, but that wouldn't have been terrible. Okay. Yeah, so we just... It's dead, because it just doesn't have any more forging potential. That's fine, that happens. I'm going to put this here. We're going to Glyph of Chaos this, and the thought process here is that we want this to go to an attribute. Okay, poison damage, fire damage, so it's pretty much bricked at this point, so we're just going to sacrifice it. Okay. This is just bricked. Probably didn't even need to shatter that realistically. We're going to do the same thought process here where we try and get this to an attribute. Okay, we got it to attunement, but it's just not a high amount of attunement, and it's out of 40 potential, so we're just going to shatter it. Okay, so very good base on this ring, but unfortunately, like, very bad. Yeah, this is just going to be so bad. I'm just going to see what happens if we chaos this a couple times. Yeah, I don't know, we're just going to shatter this because it's just, yeah, it doesn't have any good prefixes really at all. Just unfortunate ring. So, okay, really decent base here, but because we have no forging potential, we basically need this to, like, get crazy lucky and hit minion damage, and then we can kind of work with it. So we got a crazy lucky with the critical success, but we hit void damage, which means that we're probably just going to shatter this. Okay, so this one, it's going to be difficult because, again, we want to change it to a stat, right? Damage over time, okay. So we really need to change it to a stat on this one, and we get reduced throwing cost, so it's just not going to happen. So we are going to just delete it again. Getting kind of unlucky here. Okay, so this is one here where it's interesting, right? Because we have a lot of forging potential, and we have a mod that we want, minion damage, right? And it's exalted, which is good. We've got a usable resist, and we have an open suffix here. So realistically, what we need to happen here is this has to get chaosed, and it has to go to an attribute so we can change it later if it doesn't go to dex. That's what we're hoping for here. That's our best plan. And then we fill in the other slots. So let's hit it, and it goes to spell damage. I'm going to try and save it just because it still has a decent amount of forging potential, so we just need to hit the spell damage off. It's very unlikely. We did. We only lost a couple forging potential here, so this is going to change the strategy. Before I was going to craft health on this, right? Now we're going to craft dex, because we have to craft dex on the prefix. But we are going to basically discovery the suffix to see if we can get like anything decent. So we're going to craft this on. Hope we don't lose 40. I mean, okay. We lost a little bit. It's not the end of the world. We are going to discovery on the other prefix or the other suffix here and hope that we get, okay, cold resistance is usable. And we are just going to upgrade and hope that we get some RNG. Okay, that's a good start. I'm going to actually, well, yeah. Okay, see? Here we go. Okay, now you're kind of in the position where I think I do want to hit this again. Yeah, I'm going to hit this again. Because I want the cold res to be kind of like usable, right? Okay, another Glyph of Hope. Okay, so now what we might do is we might double tap a like dexterity roll here, depending on what we get. We're going to see. Okay, we hit another Glyph of Hope. So what we're going to actually do is we're now going to go back to cold res, right? Because we can finish off cold res for free. Like, it's impossible for this to brick. And then we get the dex on here. So this is turning out to be insane. If we actually hit this, it's really good, right? We'll see, though. Okay, it's fine. Still very good ring, right? And yeah, just a very strong ring. I think this is going to be the new ring in they're going to put in the what do you call it? In the I forget what they're called. I'm gonna just look it up because I'm annoyed. What are they called? The imprint slots. Yeah, okay. So that's actually a very good ring that we made. So you notice it did take a while to kind of like get something usable, but we got something, and we still have some other stuff here. So this is very interesting because we can we can actually swap this intelligence for for decks right now. One thing that I want to check is it's one of these. Which one is it? It's this one, right? That's the lizard one. Okay, so it will drop 2 copies of this. Oh, yeah, on one. Okay, that's not the right one. Is it this? Yeah, here we go. Defeat Bull. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure if this costs. I'm not sure if that costs forging potential or not. It's unclear, but I don't think I want a ring that just has like no other suffix here anyway, right? So I'm gonna hit it a couple times just to see. Okay, we actually basically bricked it. So yeah, I guess it honestly didn't even have a good implicit. So this will be interesting. I'm gonna actually keep this for the experiment when we actually go in there, just to see if it's even allows us to use this. This is an interesting one because we're in the same situation where we can potentially just swap the attunement out for another stat. So, okay. Yeah, it just wasn't going to work out. It was very unlikely we were going to hit anything there. That's okay. Okay, minion damage, stun of... Okay, this is actually very interesting because it's very easy to put the dex on, right? Hopefully we... Okay, that's very tough. And we're just gonna... We have to get the stun avoidance off. And yeah, it's just a bad ring. Nothing we can really do there. No problem. And then it looks like these are kind of... Yeah, this is a bad ring. And this is just... Yeah, this is a bad ring. Nothing we can really do. So that's basically... Well, we'll do this as well, because I know I want to craft this as well, I think, right? Yeah, so... This, we're looking for basically minion damage and dex. But we can do the same thing where we can basically use any attribute, right? So what I'm going to do here is... I think I'm actually going to pump the minion damage a bit more. I actually am not super against having mana. So I think I'm just going to pump a little bit of minion damage in here. And just see... how far we can push this. Maybe we can go... Yeah, it's gonna be hard to really... Okay. What is the mana at? Okay, we're at the lowest possible. I feel like we actually may want to hit the mana. What is the health at? We're at 55. Oh, yeah. We're actually going to hit the mana here and just see. Okay. Well, yeah. It's kind of like a not a terrible item, but we really wanted that mana to be something different. And, yeah, that's basically the first ring crafting session. I'll post some more of these, probably. But you kind of get an idea of, like, the methodology and what we were trying to do there. Basically, you know, why we made a lot of the decisions we did. And we ended up kind of coming out with a ring that's pretty good here. I'm pretty proud of this one. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any questions or anything like that, leave them in the comments. And I'll make more of these soon. I'll talk to you guys later.